Welcome to London Property Digest, your essential 10-minute audio recap for staying informed on London's property market. Remember all that talk about the race for space during the pandemic? Everyone was suddenly craving detached homes and big gardens. But it looks like the tide might be turning, and today we're going to unpack why.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that decline in remote working. It's having a real ripple effect, especially on those larger properties outside the city. And it's not just a subtle shift either.
It does seem pretty dramatic. Some companies are mandating 3, 4, even 5 days a week in the office now.
Right. Think about a company like WPP, the advertising giant. They're requiring employees to be back in the office 4 days a week starting in April, so those work from anywhere dreams.
Yeah, they're fading for a lot of people.
Mm.
And this shift back to the office, well, it's impacting home buying trends in a big way.
Okay, so let's break this down for our listeners. What does this mean in practical terms for the market? Well, while overall house prices in London remain relatively stable, those detached properties that skyrocketed in value during the pandemic, they're showing signs of weakness. For one thing, they're taking twice as long to sell compared to just a couple of years ago.
Wow, twice as long. That's a pretty clear indicator that something's changing.
Exactly. And it's not just the time on the market. Even high-end homes outside London, those in the £1 million plus range, they've seen prices dip almost 7% from their peak in late 2022.
That's a significant drop. So is this a case of London making a comeback after falling behind during those peak pandemic years?
It's possible prime property prices within London, which didn't experience the same kind of boom as the rest of the country during the pandemic, they are starting to show modest growth again.
That's interesting. Do you think this is because proximity to the office is becoming a priority again?
Yeah.
After all, nobody wants a 3-hour commute each way 5 days a week.
Yeah, commuting time and convenience, they're definitely playing a role in these shifting preferences. And it's not just buyers who are reacting to this new landscape. Developers are shifting gears too. Those house builders who went all in on detached homes are now adjusting their plans.
To the point where the number of new detached homes built last year was down by more than half from its peak in 2022. And that's a much sharper decline than other types of housing.
It really is. It shows how quickly developers are responding to the evolving demands of the market. They recognize that the detached dream might not be as universally desirable as it once seemed.
So with these detached homes maybe losing some of their luster, what's the outlook for London itself?
Well, it's interesting, because for so long the narrative was all about escaping the city for more space and peace during the pandemic. Now it seems like the energy and the advantages of city life, they might be pulling people back in.
And it's not just about being close to the office. London has so much to offer. You've got the culture dining nightlife, a real buzz that you don't get in the same way elsewhere.
Precisely. I actually have a friend who moved out to the suburbs during lockdown, loved having the garden and the extra space. But now that she's back in the office most days, she's finding it isolating. She misses those impromptu after-work drinks, the ease of popping to a museum on a whim, even just running into friends on the street. Those are things you just don't get in the same way outside of the city center.
It's that spontaneous side of city life that really draws people in, isn't it?
Absolutely. But of course, it's all about finding what's right for you. Some people genuinely thrive in a quieter, more spacious setting, but for others, the vibrancy and convenience of city life is a bigger draw.
And it's worth pointing out that this shift back towards city living, it could have a knock-on effect on the types of properties that are in demand. If detached homes are becoming less desirable, does that mean we'll see a resurgence in interest for apartments and townhouses?
That's a great question, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially as younger generations enter the property market. They might be more open to smaller, more efficient living spaces that are closer to the action.
They're also more accustomed to city living, having grown up with it, perhaps.
Exactly. So while the race for space might be slowing down, that doesn't mean the desire for comfortable and functional homes is going away. It's more about a recalibration of priorities, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I think this whole situation highlights how fluid the market is. What was once considered essential can change so rapidly.
Couldn't agree more. This constant evolution, it's part of what makes the London property market so fascinating. But it also means that staying informed is absolutely crucial. What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway from all of this?
To me, it's the reminder that trends are rarely permanent. The pandemic-driven rush to the suburbs might be waning, but it doesn't mean London's appeal has vanished. In fact, in some ways, it's becoming even stronger.
Well said. And for our listeners, I think the key takeaway is that understanding these trends, even anticipating them, is vital. Whether you're buying, selling, or just keeping an eye on the market being informed, puts you in a much stronger position.
It really does feel like we're at a turning point. And this whole shift away from remote work back towards the city, it begs the question, could this lead to a resurgence of those smaller, more efficient urban homes that were perhaps overlooked during the pandemic?
It's certainly a possibility. Imagine, those chic, well-designed apartments and townhouses perfectly located for work and leisure. They might become the new hot commodity.
Especially as people prioritize proximity to work and all those urban amenities that London is famous for, restaurants, theaters, galleries, everything right on your doorstep.
Exactly. And let's not forget the sustainability aspect. Smaller homes tend to be more energy efficient, which is something a lot of buyers are taking into consideration these days.
It's all about adapting to the evolving needs and priorities of city dwellers. So to wrap up, it seems like the London property market is anything but predictable right now. But armed with the knowledge of these emerging trends, our listeners can make informed decisions about their own property journeys.
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, staying ahead of the curve is crucial. Who knows what surprises await us in the coming months?
Well, on that note, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the decline of remote work to the shifting preferences for different types of homes, it's clear that the London property market is in a constant state of flux.
But as always, knowledge is power. And by understanding the forces at play, we can navigate this ever-changing landscape with confidence.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the London property market, we hope you found it insightful and engaging.
And remember, the best way to stay ahead of the game is to stay informed.
Subscribe to London Property Digest for the latest updates on the London property market.